Welcome everyone and happy Friday. Sorry it is a little bit later today for my Welly Belly talk than I normally come on, about half an hour later, but that's because I just saw Sophie in real life and we had lunch together as she is passing through. So that was really exciting. Had to take that time to hang out with her because she's awesome and my business partner. So welcome to the Friday Welly Belly Talk. My name is Kylene Terhune. I am the founder and CEO of My Balanced Biome, a virtual health coaching practice where I help women fix their guts in the United States by running functional lab testing, working on nutrition and lifestyle changes based on your chronic digestive symptoms and what you're struggling with. So today I'm really excited because I'm going to be talking about gluten, and you can't shut me up when I'm talking about gluten. So this was inspired by some recent TikTok videos that I did because I made a comment in one of the videos, and someone, actually a couple people commented underneath and said, you don't need to be gluten-free if you don't have celiac disease. And I was like, oh, let me talk about it. And then I made like 3 videos about it. So I thought today's Welly Belly Talk would be good to discuss why I recommend going gluten-free, why it's a problem for a lot of people. Also the symptoms that people see relieved when they go gluten-free, very common symptoms. And I've gotten a couple questions about like how to be gluten-free, like what foods are gluten-free. So I'm excited to talk about it. Hi, Diana. Hi, Hotshot. Okay, so if you are watching, drop me a comment. If you're watching live, if you're watching the replay, just drop replay. By the way, for people watching on TikTok, these are permanently recorded in my Facebook group, Gut Love with Kylene. So if you want to check those out and check future or past Welly Belly Talks, they're all in my Facebook group, Gut Love with Kylene. So let's talk about gluten. Let me just share my story with it first, and then we can jump in. Hello, everybody. So in 2012, I went over to my mom's house, and we were eating dinner, and she informed me that she was going gluten-free. And I was like, why would you do that? You guys, you have to understand, I am not talking as somebody that has never had an issue with gluten, okay? I am speaking from personal experience of full-blown breadaholicness over here, okay? I had a blog that was called Double Stuff's Not Enough, as in double stuff Oreos are not enough, because I would take double stuff and turn them into quadruple stuff and then put whipped cream on top, okay? So like bread was a real issue for me, sugar was a real issue for me, gluten was a real issue for me. Gluten is the devil, been gluten-free since 2012 also. Good, we're on the same page. It is the devil. Okay, flee the devil. Be gone, Satan. So 2012, I go over to my mom's house and she goes, we're going gluten-free. Well, she said she was going gluten-free. And I was like, what would possess you? Speaking of the devil. And she said, hey, I've been reading this book and I'm going to try it out. And I was like, you're crazy. Like, I'm telling you, I was a breadaholic. I loved bread. I loved Oreos, obviously. So I was like, that's just okay. Good luck with that. But in reality, I am a learner. I love to learn about things. She said she was reading this book. I was like, well, if it's enough information for my mom to go gluten-free, I'll read the book. So I said, hey, can I borrow the book? She said, yeah, sure. So I remember actually being, I think I was like by the pool back in 2012. And I was reading this book. I was like 3 chapters in. I mean, it didn't take very long at all. And I was like, this is horrible. I'm never eating it again. I informed Patrick that we were going gluten-free. I went into the pantry. I got rid of everything that had gluten in it. And I never looked back. So a lot of people, ask me about going gluten-free. And I'm like, here's the deal. The first step is to make a decision, because this is what I see a lot. People are like, I hear it's good for me. Maybe I'll do it. It sounds really hard. And they're so wishy-washy on it that then it's not a real commitment in their life. And if it's not a real commitment in your life, guess what? You're not going to be committed to it. So the first thing is, if you want to do this, you've got to be committed. Someone asked, actually on TikTok, they asked, does it have to be like all or nothing? Or can it be like just like lessening, like lowering your gluten amount? And I firmly believe, and I'll kind of explain why in a minute, I firmly believe that with gluten, it is honestly, I'm very flexible in a lot of areas when I coach people and when I talk about these things. Gluten is one thing I'm not flexible on. And it unfortunately is something that has to be 100%. It cannot be 80-20. And we'll kind of talk about that in a little bit. But so my story was that I was having a lot of fatigue. I was never, ever, ever a morning person. And I went gluten-free after my lovely mom inspired me. And I started waking up. This is when I was back in college for the second time. So I had taken 5 years off. And I went back to school. I had dropped out, got married, got divorced, went back to school. Now you know way too much about my personal life. And when I went back to school, I had these 8 a.m. classes and everything, and I was in my mid 20s, so I should have had plenty of energy if I was healthy, and I wasn't. I was very, very tired. Getting up in the morning was always an issue for me. I was like, I'm just always a night person. And then I would also notice that in the middle of the afternoon, I would need to come take a nap. And it wasn't just like, oh, I'm a little tired or I'm so busy and I expend so much energy, I need a nap. No, it was like, let me fall asleep, crash like hardcore for like 2 hours and, all this kind of stuff. So it was a problem. It was a problem to the point where I felt like I needed to look into the fatigue. And I did start doing that. And anyway, I went gluten-free and I was waking up in the morning. I was like, I am superwoman. I can go to my 8 a.m. classes. I'm not getting tired ever. I mean, it was literally like amazing. Fast forward a couple months, I hadn't even realized this. Hi, Ashley. Hi, everybody. I didn't even realize this when it was happening. But Patrick at one point was like, hey, your rosacea is gone. And I was like, hey, look at that thing that was really bothering me on my face and was horrible. The dermatologist said that this is just something that you're going to have to live with forever. And he gave me a paste to cover it up. All of a sudden I hadn't needed my paste in forever. And I actually remember I held on to that for a long time because rosacea is horrible. It makes you feel like, it's like you're breaking out all over your face basically, but it's like red bumps and, all this kind of stuff. And so pile on top of that I was trying to break into commercial acting and I was going out for all these auditions and stuff like that. And your face is your job. And I was like, what is happening? Anyway, I went gluten-free and it went away. Sino girl, yeah, I'm glad I'm describing you to a T. I hope I'm describing you to a T in the fact that you ditched gluten and feel amazing now. So, yes, this is very exciting. Julie, I just realized I've been gluten-free and didn't realize it. Maybe cover what foods include gluten. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit. Because somebody wants to know how do you go gluten-free? Okay. So why do I feel like everybody should go gluten-free? Because these people were commenting on my TikToks saying, hey, if you're not celiac, you don't need to go gluten-free. And let me tell you, this is a very, very popular conventional medicine, popular belief is that if you don't have celiac disease, it's not bad for you. Only if you have, by the way, let me just clarify this, okay? Hi, Allie. I'm changing my diet. Any advice? Okay, hold on just one sec. So let me just tell you something about celiac disease, okay? It's an autoimmune disease, okay? It's an autoimmune disease. And autoimmune diseases do not show up overnight, okay? They don't. Just like cancer, they take years to develop, okay? One requirement for an autoimmune disease, there's a 3-part triangle that has to come in all at the same time in order for autoimmune disease to happen in your body. And in order for that to occur, one of these pieces of the triangle is leaky gut. So gut permeability, which means that there is damage occurring in the gut, there is permeability in the gut lining, and there's inflammation and immune system stimulation, all this kind of stuff. And then in certain people with genetic predisposition, other triggers that all line up in this triangle, that turns into an autoimmune disease, okay? Let me just tell you something, okay? It doesn't happen overnight, which means you have years before this happens that you can work on your health and maybe not let it happen in your body, okay? So to say, don't go gluten-free unless you have celiac, I have a better idea. How about we not get celiac, okay? Because you have a major gluten sensitivity, and it causes inflammation in everybody, and it causes increased gut permeability in everybody. So how about we just not get there in the first place, and we talk about this for what it is, which is something that causes inflammation in every single human, okay? Now, the problem is everybody has different genetic tendencies, right? So one of the questions that comes up a lot is, well, it's not bad for everybody, right? Like, why do some people tolerate it really well and other people not tolerate it really well? Let me explain it this way. That is because everybody has a different tolerance bucket in terms of what your life stressors are and what genetics you have. And these all kind of come into play in this little bucket that is your life. And so everybody has mental, emotional stressors, physical stressors, chemical and toxin stressors, pathogens in the gut. We have all of these different exposures. It depends on where you live, where you work, how many traumas you have had in your life, what your current emotional stress situation is, where all these different things come into play. So just play devil's advocate. You have somebody that has a very, very healthy immune system and microbiome. You have somebody that has low stress. They're an extremely positive person. Everything is going well in their life. They don't eat gluten very much. They eat it. It causes a little bit of inflammation, some gut permeability. They don't have any genetic predispositions to autoimmune diseases or Crohn's disease or celiac or anything like that. They eat it a little bit, generally are very, very healthy, low stress, fine. Okay. It still does the same thing in the body for that person. However, that body has all of these reserves built up because they're low stress. They have all these nutrients. They eat all these healthy foods. And so their nutrient bucket and their reserve bucket is full. And so something stressful comes in, a toxin, gluten, something, stress, whatever, comes in here and there. And guess what? Your body can go, I can handle this. And it fixes it. Your immune system reacts and you heal your gut lining. The inflammation calms down, and never the wiser that it was even a problem because your body handled it. Okay? Doesn't mean that it was good. It was still a stressor, but their body handled it, okay? Now, for all the people that I work with, and I would argue most people in general, we don't live those super healthy lives and stress-free lives, right? We all have extreme stress in our lives. And for the people that I work, they have a lot of gut imbalances. They have a lot of pathogens, parasites, bacteria, H. pylori, whatever. Okay, and then they also have a lot of food sensitivities that cause inflammation, okay? And so these people, their reserve bucket, their health reserve bucket, their nutrient bucket is low, okay? And then we have this standard American diet where we are getting gluten at every single meal and every single snack. It has completely overwhelmed our diet to the point where people, you talk about going gluten-free and they're like, what can I eat? And I remember having that feeling. I was like, what can I eat? That is how much is permeated. So if you go back 100 years, and this again is why it's become a problem, wheat from 1,000 years ago is not the same wheat that we have today. It's been very hybridized. And what that hybridization has done is has actually increased the number of gluten proteins in the plant. Okay, so gluten is what makes it sticky and stretchy and it's bindy, and that's why it makes such good pastries and breads and all this kind of stuff, is because it has that stretchy kind of glutinous material, okay? And 100 years ago, there was this much gluten in the wheat plant, and because it's been hybridized, there's now this much gluten. It gets very sciencey from here to here. That's the scientific term. So there's just a lot more exposure in the plant itself to the parts of the plant that people react to. Okay, so gluten is just a protein in wheat. You have gluten and gliadin and there's another one. And so, sorry, brain blip. So you have this increase in the plant itself, right? And then in the past 100 years, we have this explosion of industry when it comes to food. And so then we have processed foods, right? And so it's much easier to access food. So not only has the plant changed now to increase the part of the plant that causes digestive upset, but now we also have this extreme influx of, well, I can grab this snack, this cookie, this chip, this cracker, this bread, this cake, this cupcake. People were not eating like this 100 years ago. They did not have this constant exposure to snack foods, this constant exposure to sugar and wheat and all this kind of stuff. So you have it increased in multiple different areas. You have the wheat plant itself has increased the amount of stuff inside of it that causes gut problems. And then you've also increased our ability to get the food and the ability to eat the food. And it's been just like, it's basically our exposure to it has exploded in the past 100 years. Okay. So like, it's huge. It's huge. And then the third piece that comes into play here is that it's a very highly pesticide sprayed crop. And what the reason that that is important is because pesticides, glyphosate, you've probably heard about it in the news. There's been tons of lawsuits about glyphosate. The problem with glyphosate, besides it being a carcinogen now, is that we know that parts per million, like a minuscule microscopic amount of glyphosate when ingested, actually impacts our gut flora in a bad way. In other words, it kills your beneficial bacteria. Go to ewg.org and look at their article. I believe it was from 2019, where they did a study looking for all these breakfast cereals and breakfast foods that are supposedly healthy, like whole grain and oat-based and all this kind of stuff, right? And they were looking for how much glyphosate exposure are you getting in these foods? And pretty much every single one had more, I want to word this correctly. Every single one was above the amount per serving that they felt was acceptable for children to be exposed to. So I would say no amount is acceptable to be ingested because it's a toxic poison. But if you want to say, okay, your body can tolerate this amount, every serving was above that, okay? And you got to think about that. You're having a bowl of Cheerios, you're getting more glyphosate than you should have, and you're dosing your children with glyphosate. And then who measures a serving? Nobody measures their cereal. No, so you're probably getting 2 or 3 servings, and then you're having a sandwich or a wrap at lunch, so you're getting another one, and then you're having something, a roll or pasta or something later in the day, or a snack or something, and you're getting another dose. So there's multiple problems with it. There's the hybridization, there's the extreme influx in the amount that we're eating, and there is the pesticide exposure, okay? So those are a few reasons why it's like a major problem where it wasn't like 100 or 200 years ago. So sometimes when people are asking, like I think I just said, I really need to go gluten-free. I have no idea where to start. Okay, yeah. Oh, and kids, that's a good one. Let me type that in. Hopefully I have time to talk about that. Okay. So how to go gluten-free. So the first thing is, like I said at the very beginning of this video, you have to make a decision. If it's not a commitment, it is frustrating. Like any habit change at the beginning is hard. And like any habit change, if it's not a commitment, things will get hard and you won't follow through with it, right? When things get hard and we haven't truly committed deep down internally, then when it gets hard, we go, oh, well, I'll just go to what's easy. And you'll grab something and it won't be what you want to do. So I would say do a lot of research, first of all. Start reading about it. There are tons of resources out there. Now, the one caveat I will say is look at resources that are focusing on eating real food, not replacing everything with a gluten-free product, because even Oreos have a gluten-free version now. So you don't necessarily want to go from a processed food to another processed food because you're swapping out one evil for another one that's still going to spike your blood sugar and be nutrient void and all this kind of stuff. So what you want to do is you want to be reading books like Wheat Belly, Grain Brain, Paleoista. You want to be looking at these resources that are promoting eating real food. So if you flip that and say, instead of saying how can I eat that nothing, what in the world can I eat? Or what can't I eat? What I would say is flip that and be like, well, I can eat everything that's a real food because you have apples and pears and grapes and every single vegetable is gluten-free, and you have rice and quinoa and you have meats and healthy fats and you have nuts and seeds. You can eat all of those things. So what you're avoiding is things that include wheat, barley, rye, malt, and you want to just start reading. You just want to start educating yourself. That's the biggest thing. You just want to start What books again? I'll say them again. Wheat Belly, Grain Brain, Paleoista. Those are a couple great places to start. You just want to start looking at resources that are encouraging whole, real food, non-processed food. Now, everybody asks about that too. Is all processed food bad? No, I have a video about that. Not all processed food is bad. There are companies that are gluten-free and they focus on having few ingredients and they're real ingredients. I like brands like Simple Mills because of that. But there is gluten-free for everything now. So everybody freaks out about bread and pasta and cupcakes and all this kind of stuff. I eat all those things on a regular basis. I either home make them at home with almond flour, coconut flour, cassava flour, something like that, or there are companies, like I said, like Simple Mills that have this flat focaccia bread, and it's made with almond flour, or things like that. There are resources out there, but the first thing you have to do is make the commitment. The second thing you got to think about is that you want to focus on what you can eat, and what you can eat is any real food basically that doesn't have wheat flour in it, which is a lot of food. It is a lot of food. Okay, so let me address kids real quick, because I think that was a wonderful question. And Keegan was 8, I think, when we went gluten-free. And here's the thing, you're the adult. That's it, you're the adult. And unless they are a teenager or they are out on their own or they are paying for their own food, guess who's in charge? You are. Who does the grocery shopping? You do. Who makes the food? Probably you. Okay, so one thing that I say, it's a non-negotiable. In my world, it is a non-negotiable. I decided that we were doing this not to be mean, but because it was going to benefit everyone's health. I made the change. It was a non-negotiable change, and I made the food. I bought the food. I made the food, and everybody was gluten-free. Okay, so with children, though, one of the best things that you can do is find the swaps that make them happy and sort of not realize what's happening, okay? And some of them are really picky, and you're gonna have to handle that yourself as the parent, but again, non-negotiable. You eat it or you don't eat it. So the swaps, like with Keegan, while we were making the transition, we didn't go straight from gluten to extremely healthy real foods. We did do the processed gluten-free for a little while during the transition. And so he loved like macaroni and cheese, like that was his thing. And so we got gluten-free macaroni and cheese for a while. And then it just became less and less and less and less and less. But there are really amazing like brownie recipes. Again, I should get paid to promote Simple Mills. They're amazing. And they have a really good box brownie recipe. But brownies are amazing for kids to feel like they're still getting treats. And honestly, there are some of these things that they won't even taste the difference. They're really, really good. So I would say find a recipe. And here's a hot tip. I don't say that the paleo diet is perfect for everybody because it eliminates like beans and legumes and all this kind of stuff as well. But if you're looking for a way to make a dessert with whole real foods, so no sugar, no gluten, that sort of thing, Google whatever you're looking for, cupcake, cake, pie, whatever, with the word paleo in front of it, Paleo, and you will find a healthy recipe. So if there's something that your kids really, really like, Google it with paleo in front of it and you'll find a really good recipe. By the way, TikTok, this is all recorded all over on my Facebook page, Got Love with Kylene. And on Facebook, if you guys have a specific recipe that you're like, oh, I'd really like a good recipe for this or a good recommendation, just drop it below. That's one of the things I really like to do. Okay, so I hope I answered your question because I know I'm a little bit of a hard ass when it comes to this topic, but here's the deal. Children in particular have this wonderful opportunity to grow up without the burden that we did. Okay, and this is huge and this is really important because what I see is a lot of parents eating an extremely healthy diet or being extremely conscientious because they had all these health issues and then saying, oh, but I want my kid to be able to live this normal life and not have restrictions and all this kind of stuff. I'm sorry, they have the same genes that you do. So if you ended up 50 pounds overweight, went gluten-free and dropped 30 pounds, and now you're eating an extremely healthy diet, your kids are going to have the same pattern that you did. Or if you had all this joint pain and gave up gluten and all of a sudden you feel amazing and have so much energy, but you want your kids to still be able to eat, Pop-Tarts every morning, they have your genes. You're only helping them when you make these decisions in your family. You're only benefiting them. Let me tell you what our experience was and has been. Keegan didn't like it. I mean, he's a kid. No kid likes it. They want to eat what they want to eat. He's 16. He still wants to go and cheat. But it impacts his brain, okay? It impacts his mood, his behavior, and his brain, and I can always tell, okay? When he's cheated or when he's not taking his supplements, because these things impact his brain. And within about 2 weeks of having him go gluten-free, I can't really talk, after about 2 weeks of him going gluten-free, we noticed that his moods were better, that he was more patient, that he was less head explodey and moody, okay? And it's a big deal, big deal. And not to throw anyone under the bus or anything, but he went to visit someone for a month several years ago, came back, he was fat within 1 month. 1 month. So this stuff impacts our children just the exact same way that it impacts us. The thing with kids is they're more resilient than we are. So why don't we set them up for a healthy adulthood by making these decisions when we are still in control? Okay? And talk to them about it. Explain it. Have them start making the connection. I have more energy. My mood is better. I feel better. My tummy feels better. My digestion is better. My poop is better. My sleep is better. My headaches are gone. Whatever it is for them. Get them on board and help them to stay on board by anytime they have to be in a situation where they're going to feel awkward, send them with a cupcake. Send them with stuff so that they don't have to feel like they are weird. They might still feel weird, but whatever. They have something delicious to eat, okay? And I mean, my niece is a great example of this. They've been gluten-free since they were born, and they just ask. We give them a snack or whatever, is that gluten-free? They just have been trained from birth. Gluten is bad for them. And it's great because they're like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I can't eat that. And I think, I'm not sure, I'll have to ask my sister, but I think they might have been exposed once and they do connect it with like their tummy's not feeling good, or at least my niece does. So anyway, train them, help them to, it's just like anything, right? You teach them right from wrong, teach them what's good for them to eat, help them connect it with their body, help them understand this helps your tummy feel better. Or if they have skin problems, get rid of it. See if the skin problems go away. Help them make the connection. If they can internalize it, they will stick with it much better. And if they don't want to and they're really, really difficult, they are going to go to their friend's house and cheat and go to a birthday party and have a cupcake, whatever, but you're still in control of 98% of what they eat. Okay, I'm going to scroll through some comments here, so just bear with me for a second because I'm trying to go back. Okay. I think I've answered that. I'm clueless where to start being gluten-free. I've given you some resources there. Hello from Chicago. Diagnosed with chronic fatigue, chronic digestive issues. Yeah, okay, so here's the thing. Gluten is like one piece of this really big puzzle. Once your body has gotten to a place where it has broken down and showed up in symptoms and it has become chronic symptoms, this is not a joke anymore, okay? If somebody is living this perfectly healthy life and they're happy all the time and then they eat gluten occasionally and they have digestive upset and it's like a really rare thing and nothing else is wrong in their life, then whatever, okay? If you want to do it, I still don't think it's good, but if you want to do it, fine. But people that have chronic symptoms, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, chronic period problems, chronic skin problems, this is not a joke, okay? And gluten is important and it lays the foundation, as does bringing in all of the nutrients that you need from healthy food, okay? So you want to get rid of the bad stuff. You want to bring in the good stuff. But it's one piece of the puzzle. And at that point, it's probably beneficial to get some testing. So what I do as a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner is work with people with those chronic symptoms. Because when they change their diet, that's great, but it may not be enough at that point. And I know for my own health story, I had imbalanced hormones, I had 4 parasites, I had all this kind of stuff that I had to work out, bacterial imbalance, and this is what I see with my clients all the time. But we start working on that, then that allows the gut to heal, then people start to feel better. Exhausted all the time, yeah. Same thing. Same thing. I was exhausted all the time too. Oh, by the way, this is like next level. But if you have access to an infrared sauna, those things are amazing. We finally got one this year, and I do it like every day. I love it. I love it. That's a whole other video though. I really feel I need to go gluten-free. I have no idea where to start. And gluten-free with kids. Okay, cool. I just answered that. I hope that was helpful. Tara Lynn, I hope that was helpful. I heard you can't trust organic anymore. Well, still do it. Yeah, maybe I should do a whole thing on labels. Labels lie, but organic is still important. Basically what organic says is they're not allowed to use certain pesticides like glyphosate, so it is really important. And then we recommend looking at like the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 list of produce, so that if you can't buy all organic, you know what to prioritize. So that is beneficial. But yeah, organic as much as possible. What about kamut flour? You know, I think I read about that at some point, that it like people don't respond to that the same way, but I'm not familiar enough to answer that question. I'm sorry. Buckwheat flour. Yeah. Interesting though. My son had buckwheat came up on his food sensitivity testing. So just be careful with that one. Why is gluten bad for you? I talked about that at the beginning of the video. So if you want to go to my Facebook group, Gut Love with Kylene, it's all recorded and you can watch that first half. I get chronic migraines from gluten. Yes. Oh, that was one thing that I wanted to talk about, was everybody is like, okay, if you're not celiac, if you don't have whatever, then you don't have to do gluten, right? Garbage. And one of the reasons that people don't associate gluten with problems is because they think, oh, well, if I have a food sensitivity or a food allergy, it's going to be stomach related, right? I'm going to bloat out, I'm going to be constipated, something like that. No. It shows up in every single person differently. And that, again, that goes back to our tolerance level, our bucket, and our genetics. And it is different for every single person. Some people get rid of migraines. Some people improve their skin. Some people ditch their constipation. Some people have chronic diarrhea and then that goes away. Some people get more energy. Some people, their joint pain diminishes significantly. Some people have bloating and then that goes away. And recently I've seen several people, their acid reflux improves or goes away just from ditching gluten. Like it's a big, big deal. So these are, and mood, by the way, mood, okay? We just did this gut hormone mood workshop a couple months ago, and your gut is like, it controls your brain, okay? It is a huge impact on how you feel, how your neurotransmitters are balanced, all this kind of stuff. So when we're talking about eliminating things that cause inflammation and damage in the gut, think about it improving your mood, your anxiety, your depression, your mood swings, all this kind of stuff. So that's one of the things that really bugs me when people are like, I can't go gluten-free, or you don't need to go gluten-free when you're not celiac. Yes, you do. And then here's the thing. So people will think, well, I don't have a problem with it. Just try it. Try it and see what happens. You might be surprised. So someone that doesn't think they have a problem with it, they give it up, and then all of a sudden they realize, oh, well, my knees don't hurt when I run anymore. Never in a million years would that person have thought, oh, it's gluten in my diet. Right? Like that doesn't, oh, it's just because I'm a marathon runner and I put a lot of stress on my knees. Well, maybe it's because you're eating something that's causing chronic inflammation in your body. Okay. And one of the top offenders is gluten. Okay. Making your own is always best because you know what you're putting inside. Yeah, absolutely. The more you can cook at home, the more you can eat fresh, the better. A lot of us are busy. A lot of us work and try to balance family and all these different things. So it's harder, but the more that you can cook healthy foods or meal prep on the weekend or use Instapot and crock pot and all that kind of stuff, good stuff. And then there's all these places that mail you foods as well, healthy foods that are gluten-free and dairy-free and sugar-free and all this kind of stuff. And they're great because they're like designed by a chef and they taste amazing. You're welcome. You are so right. And if you keep offering the healthy stuff, they'll eventually try it and eat it. For kids, yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. And I heard this story one time, and this is hard, you guys, because you never want your kid, and I'm never going to tell you what to do as a parent, but you never want your kid to be struggling, right? But I heard this story one time that was just really inspiring. And this, I believe, if I remember correctly, the child was autistic. And so they were going to try to do this diet change. And the kid held out for like 5 days, no joke, would not eat anything that they were offering. And they were like, oh my gosh, like we've got to get her to eat. Like they were about to break down, and they kept offering her the healthy food, and they kept offering her the healthy food and all this kind of stuff. Finally, I think it was on day 5 or 6, she started eating the healthy food. They had gotten rid of all the processed food, the stuff with food dyes and gluten and all this kind of stuff. They started feeding her the healthy food. She started accepting it, and they saw this amazing change in her. And she was more calm and all this kind of stuff. And it's just, sometimes we just have to push it through. If they're really hungry enough, they'll eat it. But like I said, if you can, the younger you can start when you're in control, and that's an extreme situation. Like I said, I'm never going to tell you what to do or not do. I'm going to make very strong recommendations. But yeah, that was a really powerful example. What are the best supplements for kids? It would depend on the child. Yeah, it would definitely depend on the kid. So my son had years until we figured out what was going on. And it was a real problem because he would go to school in the fall, and then he would miss like weeks at a time because he was having chronic stomach pains and nausea and all this kind of stuff. Ended up being a combination of several things: massive food sensitivities, a genetic issue with detoxification, and on top of that, he was sleeping in a room where there was something in the carpet and we had to remove the carpet. And when we addressed all of those things, basically he's been fine since. And now we know, based on his genetics, what supplements he should take that make him feel really good and help his brain and all this kind of stuff. But it is very dependent. Although I would say that, probably everyone should be on a probiotic, or at least eating probiotic foods and fresh vegetables and fiber and that sort of thing. Okay, let's see if I got everything. Why should we go gluten-free? Talked about that. What foods are gluten-free? Pretty much every fruit, every vegetable, rice, quinoa, all those sorts of things. What foods have gluten? Anything that has wheat flour in it, like chips, crackers, cakes, cupcakes, any baked good pretty much is going to have flour in it, so it's going to have gluten in it. Some secretive ones would be like soy sauce, condiments, soups, because sometimes wheat flour is used as a thickener. So my best advice when you're going gluten-free is to do a lot of reading, and don't be afraid when you go out to eat to ask questions, and make sure that you look at the menu ahead of time, or get familiar, or just don't. I remember being so nervous at the beginning about like asking these questions, right? Like, oh, I'm that person now, right? Like we all kind of like have that, oh, I don't want to be in trouble to you. Your health is worth everything, okay? It is worth everything. And as long as you go in and you're really nice and you say, hey, is this gluten-free, or do you have a gluten-free menu, and you're really polite about it and you tip them well, everybody is super polite. It's a bigger deal in our head than it is in real life. And you think about it this way. If your friend was trying to be healthy and they were coming to your house, you would want them to have that conversation with you, right? Because you're a good friend. Now, if it's like an awkward situation or something, or you don't feel comfortable talking to them ahead of time, bring your own thing, and don't even make it think, hey, I just brought something to share. Not even a big deal, right? So the number one thing, you got to make a commitment, and it's got to be non-negotiable. That's the biggest thing. All right, guys, 38 minutes of me talking about gluten. 1-minute videos on TikTok are not enough for this topic. So if you have questions, pop on over to the Facebook group, Got Love with Kylene, and drop them below the video. And thank you so much for joining me, everybody. I really appreciate it. I was a little bit late today, but typically it is Fridays, 12:30 EST. So I will talk to you next week. Bye. Bye, TikTok. Thank you so much. Oh, I appreciate you too.